Welcome to Crime Vault, an extension of everyday shenanigans. Anthony Sowell, African American serial killer. Anthony Sowell, the infamous Cleveland serial killer who committed one of the most shocking series of crimes in the city's history, died Monday afternoon at an Ohio prison hospital of unspecified illness, a state corrections department official confirmed. Sowell, who was 61 at the time, was awaiting the death penalty for the gruesome and depraved slayings that have haunted the Mount Pleasant neighborhood since police found the decomposed bodies of 11 women on his property more than a decade ago. State prison officials on January 21st moved Sowell from death row at the Chillicothe Correctional Institution at the end-of-life care unit at the Franklin Medical Center in Columbus. He died at 3:27 p.m., according to a prison spokeswoman. Sowell suffered from a terminal illness, but Ohio Department of Rehabilitation and Corrections spokeswoman Joellen Smith could not say what illness. She said his death is not the result of the coronavirus. His case became an international news story. It highlighted deep deficiencies within the Cleveland area criminal justice system that saw several of Sowell's victims ignored by law enforcement, allowing him to remain free to rape and kill others. It also called into question how seriously police took the families of missing persons known to live on society's fringes. Cleveland paid out more than $1.3 million to victims and their families to settle lawsuits over how detectives handled accusations against Sowell before his arrest. Sowell had been free from prison for several years by October 2009, having served a 15-year sentence for rape when officers went to his Emperor Avenue home as part of a new rape investigation. Investigators found two decomposing bodies on the third floor and a freshly dug grave in the basement. Police took Sowell into custody 2 days later. Meanwhile, investigators combed through every inch of the house and the property on which it sat. In the end, they found the decomposed bodies of 10 women, as well as a skull and a bucket in the basement. Investigators later determined that Sowell lured the victims, all vulnerable women who struggled with drug addiction, into his home. He raped and strangled them, discarding their bodies in shallow graves, crawl spaces, and even out to decompose in the open air. The victims who escaped later recounted how Sowell lured them into his life and transformed into a monster. Some spoke of police officers who didn't believe what they reported. A jury found Sowell guilty in 2011 of dozens of charges, including multiple counts of aggravated murder and other crimes for the women he killed. He was also convicted of trying to kill 3 women who survived. Cuyahoga County Common Pleas Judge Dick Ambrose sentenced Sowell to death, rejecting arguments that the hard life lived by the killer, a Marine who had an abusive childhood and may have suffered from mental and cognitive disorders, should be a reason to spare his life. John Parker, one of the 2 lawyers who represented Sowell at trial, said Tuesday that he spent many hours with his client at the time. Parker, who has not spoken to Sowell in many years, maintained that his former client's troubled upbringing rippled throughout the rest of his life. He was not a monster and he was not evil, Parker said. He was damaged by childhood abuse and serious mental health problems. May he rest in peace. Sowell, like most death row inmates, continued to fight his case in court to the end. The discovery of the bodies in Sowell's home solved a mystery that had real consequences for the neighborhood and a well-established East Side business. Residents at the time complained of a smell and permeated the neighborhood. Former city councilman Zach Reed, whose ward included Mount Pleasant, said there was a woman who lived across the street from Sowell who told him the neighborhood smelled like dead bodies. Drain pipes were flushed and sewers were replaced because of the smell. The owners of Ray's Sausage next to Sowell's house spent nearly $20,000 for new plumbing fixtures, sewer lines, and grease traps amid complaints that their operation was the source of the odor. Those women never got justice, Reed said in an interview late Monday after news of Sowell's death spread. Those families never got justice. The community never got justice. Ray's Sausage never got justice. There's nothing good that came out of that situation. If you need verification for the information, Cleveland.com. Source uploaded February 9th, 2021. The following story is based on actual events that took place in the Midwest pertaining to Anthony Sowell and his unfortunate victims. Here's the story.
In 2009, investigators make a grisly discovery in the neighborhood of Mount Pleasant in Cleveland, Ohio.
The scene was extremely disturbing, like something out of Dante's Inferno.
11 women who had mysteriously vanished are found murdered at the home of Anthony Sowell, infamously known as the Cleveland Strangler.
You could see the demon, the devil from the pit of hell. There's bodies in the wall, in the backyard, in the basement. You got a head in a bucket.
This guy, we know for a fact, was living where these bodies were. What kind of person does that?
This was a jaw-dropping case. Every day the story got darker and darker.
Anthony would use drugs, alcohol, his charm to lure women to his house. They were vulnerable. They were easy prey for him.
He was a predator, serial killer, and rapist.
Choking the hands, that's what the event was saying.
We'll hear first-hand accounts from 5 women who remarkably managed to survive his attacks and heroically escape from his house of horrors.
He raped me, brutally raped me, and he says, if you scream, I'm gonna kill you. So I kicked out the screen window, I jumped.
As he walked me to the bathroom, sitting on that floor, my body, and it had no head. I thought, this is how I'm going to die.
I walked out the store and he spoke to me, but I kept walking. And he said, Merry Christmas. I said, Merry Christmas. He said, would you like to have a drink? I said, no, thanks, I have a home. So I'm walking down Imperial to catch the bus, not realizing that he was behind me. And all of a sudden I was hit from behind.
Sowell knocks Gladys unconscious, and he drags her inside his house.
He's so confident in himself that he's dragging this woman down the sidewalk into his house. He has an incredible confidence at this point that he's going to get away with everything that he does.
I woke up, it was creepy, it was dark. I guess I was all the way up on the 3rd floor. And I tried to get out, and the doors was locked, so I started screaming. And then he just came in, and he said, bitch, you can scream all you want. Nobody can hear you, you about to die. All I saw was red eyes. It's like he had a demon in him or something. He started beating me. And I was fighting for my life. I broke loose and I started stumbling down the hallway. When I turned around, he was right there, so I just grabbed him. And I just threw myself and him down the steps. And I went through a glass door. I fell down in the hallway. And he just dived on me and started strangling me. And then I grabbed his testicles and I twisted them all the way around till I couldn't twist them no more. And I tried to take his eyeballs out. I gouged at his eyes. He let up off my neck. And when I fell down the last steps, I fell straight out the side door.
She ran across the street to Best Pizza. She asked them to call police. The manager at the store told her to get out of the store because she was bleeding on his floor.
And by this time, he's coming across the street now. He's saying, yeah, that bitch stole my watch. She stole this. She stole that from me. And I had to beat her ass and put her out my house. I said, I don't even know that guy. They said, well, you still got to get out. Everybody was out there laughing and talking about me to him. And then they put me out right in front of him. And I just started running.
On the night of October 29th, 2009, following LaTundra Billups' account of how Anthony Sowell sexually assaulted and strangled her, Cleveland police storm into his house to arrest him. It's been over 2 years since women started vanishing in the neighborhood, And now the police make a shocking discovery.
Upon entering, they observed 2 decomposed bodies on the floor.
The scene was extremely disturbing, like something out of Dante's Inferno. They did a security sweep of the residence to make sure the suspect wasn't there. He was not, and they backed out, and we sealed the house for the homicide unit and for a scientific investigation unit to arrive.
A BOLO was issued for Sowell, and veteran homicide detectives Melvin Smith and Lem Griffin arrive at the scene.
We had not yet been able to find any lights in the house, so we were working with flashlights. So that made it like a extremely intense, like what I describe a haunted house type atmosphere. The more we found ourselves inside of the house, the stronger the smell became. And once we arrived to the 3rd floor, it was pretty intense.
The smell hit you. It's a stench smell. It's the worst type of smell that you can encounter.
There were dead flies everywhere, on the wall, on the floor, on every piece of furniture, on everything that there was. I mean, to the point where you couldn't actually see the floor.
These bodies were so decomp, they had been there a while.
This guy, we know for a fact, was living on the 3rd floor where these bodies were. What kind of guy, what kind of person does that?
I believe something that could be learned from the Anthony Sowell case is this. You had 11 women that were missing. There's missing persons units in each district in the city of Cleveland. There's got to be a way that you can track, particularly women that are at risk, the drug addicts, the prostitutes. When a lot of those go missing from a certain neighborhood, there should be a way for those missing person unit to do something to get a hold of somebody and say, look, we've got 11 missing women, all from the same neighborhood. 7 of the 11 are, been arrested for prostitution. 6 of them have drug offenses. So you've got a basic makeup of the type of victim you're looking for, and then put a pattern together. And hopefully, this won't occur again.
So you got to make this right. What we want to do, we want information. And a lot of times we're not going to get it. We know we're not going to get it. So basically, we want to get you to talk. So as long as you're talking, I'm listening. So it's got to be right. It's got to be right before we finish this.
You can't make nothing happen that
I know what you're saying, but
okay, see, every time I can you think like I can just, and everything is so, it's not clear like that.
Why isn't it?
I don't know.
You remember why you got demoted in the military?
That was but that was
long ago, Tom. That was a whole lot long ago.
But I wasn't dreaming about no military. I lived military.
You lived this.
I know, but it's different.
You lived this.
It's different, man.
Yeah, it's the most significant thing that has ever happened to you in your life. In your 50 years of living, 6 dead bodies are very, very significant. They are like concrete, like glue. They're stuck. They're not going nowhere for the rest of your life. They're going to be there forever. We're detectives. We want to solve this. We want to put this thing to rest. We want to make sure that every victim is accounted for. We want to make sure every family member knows that we went after this guy and we did not leave no stone unturned.
Well, I'll tell you what. If the dream told you to choke her, and you choked her, that damn dream is over when you start hauling that damn dirt up there and putting it on the damn body.
I have gone through this over and over in my head, and I feel like he had no intention on allowing me to leave the first time. And we're talking about somebody that had been drinking all night, which I have a high tolerance for alcohol, because that was my number one drug of choice, was alcohol. Because you're going to sit up all night and feed some woman drinks, drugs, cigarettes. And I guess he was waiting on me to And I was sober as a judge. So he was waiting for that to kick in. When that didn't kick in, he went to plan B. Because he had let me walk out the door, he got mad at himself because he had that was not his intentions, is to let me go at all. So when I came back for my ID, he saw his opportunity to hurt yet another woman. Had I not gone back for that ID, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
I was able to speak with Anthony while he was in death row several times. At one point, our conversations were coming to a close, and maybe it'd be the last time I talked to him. I said, Anthony, if you committed these crimes, what would you tell people about the reason why you did it? And very quickly, he said 4 words: abused children grow up.
When Anthony said abused children grow up, it was a very chilling, cautionary tale. Like, there are consequences to when people abuse their children. And you never know when some of them might grow up and take revenge on innocent other people. And that just shows you again that Anthony knew what he was doing. He was trying to exact revenge on these other victims who were actually more helpless in comparison to his mother, who, when he was a child, he couldn't really exact that type of revenge on an adult who was more powerful than him. And in some ways, it's kind of a little bit of insightful that Anthony would say that, because we do find that there is that link between really severe childhood abuse and people growing up with antisocial personality disorder traits.
Thank you for joining me. This is an extension of Everyday Shenanigans Crime Vault. The subject matter for this live is Anthony Sowell, who is currently deceased. He died while being incarcerated, awaiting the death chair. At the time of death, it was not revealed what his terminal illness was, but it said in my commentary in the early part of this live that it was not the coronavirus. So what did Anthony Sowell pass away from? How did it come to be that 11 women succumbed to the hands of Anthony Sowell to be strangled to death? Why did he strangle these women? Why was he so angry? Did he choose these women because they were so easily accessible to come into his home to take a chance at having a drink with a stranger and or drugs or sex? What was the motive or motives for killing these women? Many people will have varying opinions pertaining to the women that were murdered. But God loves all his children, whether they are addicts, alcoholics, women of the night, children of the night, abusers, sadists. God loves all his children. One of the men interviewed in another documentary pertaining to this horrific crime spoke very ill of the women and said that Anthony did the neighborhood community a favor by cleaning up the trash. And that was a very, very disrespectful and despicable thing to say about another life. It does not matter what the women were doing and not doing. They had the choice to roam the earth as they saw fit, and whatever they chose to do was their prerogative. And no one had the right to kill them, so long as they were not harming anyone directly. No one had the right to kill them. And Anthony Sowell had no right to strangle these women to death. And by the grace of God, there are those who escape the hands of Anthony Sowell. As I have said in the earlier part of this live, he is no longer living. He passed away of a undisclosed terminal illness. What was that illness? Because if it was cancer, Authorities shouldn't have any problems with telling us that. It wasn't coronavirus. So I'm thinking the obvious. Did he die of AIDS or HIV? Because you know that once they release that he died of HIV or AIDS, then here comes more lawsuits to the city. Your detectives failed these women when they were coming to you to tell you that they were assaulted by him. Those who survived, you didn't believe them. He would have been off the street had someone believed the women who reported the heinous acts by Mr. Sowell. You've already paid out $1.3 million to the victims' families. So imagine saying, oh, by the way, Anthony Sowell is now deceased and he died of HIV or AIDS. Exactly. More lawsuits. Because now you've let a predator roam the streets and a predator with HIV AIDS roam the streets. But to talk so terrible of another human being, this foreign guy, businessman, however you like to describe him, he had no right to say the ugly things that he said. You had no right. I want to thank you all for joining me. If you want to donate to the channel, $ Big Angie, 129 Cash App. All super chats are welcome during the live. Anthony Sowell's testimony, number 1.
This time, ladies and gentlemen, he is going to give what is called an unsworn statement, and it's his right to do so in this type of proceeding. The procedure will be that Mr. Parker will be asking you questions as part of, so he's like the direct examination that you've seen throughout the trial. Only there will be no cross-examination. I do have to remind those of you in the back of the room that any outbursts, any demonstrations will result in immediate expulsion from the court. So at this time, Mr. Parker, you may proceed.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Anthony. I need you to keep your voice up so all the jurors can hear you. Let's just start by having you give the jury your full name.
Anthony Edward Sowell.
And what's your birthday, Anthony?
August 19, 1959.
And how old are you right now?
51.
Are you divorced?
I'm divorced.
And I believe you've had one child with twins?
Yes.
I want to talk to you at first, or ask you some questions at first about your childhood. There was a time where you lived on East 88th Street, is that right?
Correct.
You also lived on Central for a short time?
Correct.
And there was a time when you lived on Parkgate.
Yes.
And I want to ask you questions initially about when you lived on Parkgate. Do you remember a person by the name of Princess?
Yes, I do.
Did Princess have a brother?
Shorty.
His name was Shorty.
Well, I don't know his name, but that's what we call him, Shorty.
And when you lived on Parkgate, do you know approximately how old you were? Or what grade you were?
I had just finished the first grade when we moved, I think, so 6, 7, or 8 grade in there.
Okay. And did something happen with Princess?
Yes.
Can you tell the jury about that?
She sexually abused me.
Did this happen one time?
Many.
Many times. Can you give the jury the details?
No, I won't talk about that.
That's when you were living on Parkgate?
Yes, sir.
Now, there was a time when you lived with Robin and Monica before Parkgate.
Yes.
Was there something that you saw happen between Robin and Monica?
He took her in the closet, and he was like having us. There's a lot of sexual activity going on there This was happening at my sister's house.
Patricia's house?
Yes, sir. And he basically, being the oldest, he was like directing everybody into what, really what to do. But I remember him taking Monica, which I call my older sister, into the closet. Yes.
You don't know what happened exactly?
No.
And how old would you have been around this time?
Probably he was definitely under 5.
And was there a time when...
Or 5 or 6, I take it back.
Okay. Was there a time you remember something happening between you and Ron?
I don't remember what it was exactly, but he was messing with me. I know I bit him.
You bit him?
Yeah, I never did that before, but I bit him. I guess I heard him messing with me. I don't know what to say. What happened over.
Where did you bite him? What part of his body?
On his arm somewhere. Probably right above his wrist.
You bite him hard?
Oh, yeah.
Now, I want to move on to when you and your family moved to East Cleveland.
Okay.
When you moved to the house on Page in East Cleveland, do you remember what grade you were in?
6.
And was there any difference between the East Cleveland school system and the Cleveland school system that you came out of?
Big difference.
What was the difference?
East Cleveland School was much better.
Give us an example.
Well, they had carpet on the classrooms on the floor. Each classroom had their own projector, overhead projector, film projector. It was just, the classes was much better. We had to, as soon as I got there, I had to pick out an instrument I had to play. And
okay. Did you play a musical instrument?
yes, sir.
What did you play?
Cello.
And at the end of the 6th grade, did you have a program or concert?
Yes. We had to learn 2 songs, I think.
Right.
We did a concert for the teachers and parents.
Do you remember what song you played on your cello?
Just, I remember one, Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. I don't remember that one.
Did you enjoy learning that music?
Oh, yes, I love music.
And you had a teacher named Mr. Seidman, is that right?
Correct, science teacher.
Right. That was a little later on, right?
Yes.
Did you enjoy Mr. Seidman's class?
Yes.
Did you participate when he taught the kids how to play chess?
Yes.
Is that where you learned how to play chess?
Yes, sir.
Is that something you've done throughout your whole life?
Yes, sir. I became quite good at it.
Now, I want to talk about your home life on Page Avenue as a child. You obviously know Ramona and Leona, correct?
Correct.
You saw their testimony
Yes.
over the last week or so. Did you know about those beatings that they suffered?
Of course.
Did you witness them?
Yes.
Were you ever whooped or beaten yourself?
Of course.
Can you explain that to me?
Whooped and beaten.
Right. Well, were you beaten with a switch ever?
Switch, iron cord. I was hit with a cane, broom.
And who are the people that would whip you with?
Both my grandmother and my mother.
Do you remember an incident when you were growing up on Page when you were upstairs in bed asleep?
Yes.
What happened in this incident?
My mother came up and started whooping me while I was asleep.
What was she using?
I think it was a extension cord that time.
The house on Page, was there a lot of yelling and screaming?
Every day, all the time.
Explain that as best you can.
Just constant yelling and screaming. I mean, they argued over money. They argued over the kids getting treated different. It was just constant, all day. All they was yelling at the kids, or there was always something going on. There was like a war in there.
Like a war?
Like a war.
When you were growing up in that house, did you feel like you got any nurturing from your mother?
That didn't go down.
That didn't go down?
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean?
Didn't go down. That's why still today, like my sister and kids get together, I cannot actually, when they go to holding hands and stuff, I can't do it. Physically, I can't do it.
You ever hugged your sister?
No.
That's not the way you are, right? You love her, don't you?
Yes.
Just never hugged.
Okay, that's a break in that testimony. 1 minute.
Get to a point, Anthony, where you wanted to get out of that house.
Yes.
Why did you want to get out of that house?
I just want to escape.
How did you escape?
I joined the Marines.
Did your mother want you to join them?
She didn't. She argued against it, but she ended up signing the papers because it was going to happen anyway. I was going to turn 18 in August that year. I finished school when I was 17, so I was going to. I started off early that year. I actually signed up with the Army. I was enlisted with the Army at first. Early that year, around February or March, I started. The recruiter came to our school, and I got him, called him, and he came out and started talking to me and talking to my parents. And I initially took my entrance test with the United States Army.
Why didn't you join the Army?
Because I heard the Marines were tough.
Why did you want to go to the tough?
Because I had a point to prove that I can do it, that I can, that I wasn't. I was constantly called, put down and stuff, so.
Were you picked on in school?
Sometimes.
Why would kids pick on you?
Because I was quiet and, all to myself sometimes. I just wasn't used to really associating with a lot of other kids and stuff, so.
Were you allowed to have friends when you were growing up?
Well, when we got to East Cleveland, yes.
Okay. Before East Cleveland?
No.
So you joined the Marines to prove a point?
Yes.
Who were you going to prove it to?
My mother.
So you in fact joined the Marines?
Yes.
And you did very well in boot camp, right?
Yes.
You got the honor. Mr. Vanston talked about that, right?
Yes.
You met a woman that became very special to you in the Marine Corps?
My wife.
Your wife?
Yes.
What's your wife's name?
Kim. Betts. Lawson.
Where did you meet Kim?
Okinawa, Japan.
When you were serving in the Marines?
Yes, sir.
Was she a Marine also?
Yes, sir, she was.
So you met Kim in Japan and you ended up marrying her, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Where did you two get married?
North Carolina, New Bern, North Carolina.
And you loved her, didn't you?
Of course. Still do. Yes.
How would you describe your relationship with your wife?
It was good.
It was good?
It was good. It's the best time I had in my life.
Did she help you with some things?
Oh, yeah, most definitely.
What kind of things did she help you?
Well, she understood me better or can handle me better than anybody ever seen. I don't know. We just had that connection. Well, I had already talked about my childhood with not the abuse and stuff, but a lot of things. I just let her know I had come up with a bad child. I had a bad childhood. And after we got married, I had some issues that she helped me along with.
Could you be affectionate with her?
I could be affectionate with her, but she was one of those really touchy kind of females. And I can just remember one time, I think we were sitting on the couch, and I think she put her arm around me or something. I almost got violent. I didn't like her touching me like that.
She helped you with that?
Yes.
Now, you were still in the Marine Corps when she left the Marine Corps before you, is that right?
I think she might have left after me.
Okay. But there was a point in time when the two of you were divorced.
Yes.
She went back to her hometown in California, as far as you know.
She was already in California.
She was already there.
Yes.
Now, there was an incident while you were in North Carolina, and I believe you were married to Kim at this point, where you were in an accident involving your car. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Well, Matter of fact, it was the night my mom was coming down. I had my sister and my daughter had been out visit me, and my mom was on the way to come down that night. And some friends of mine, a friend of mine, another Marine, was being transferred to Washington, D.C. the next day. And so him and his wife was having a going away party. And because my mom was coming, Kim had to stay home. Plus, my daughter and my sister was there too. My sister was only 16, so. So my wife stayed home, not going to head to the party. On the way home, my car overheated and shut off. And when I went up under the hood, and when I was messing around because it was hissing at the hose. And when I went to mess with the hose, it just blew off. And when it blew off, it pointed straight in my face, so it hit me dead in the face, and I didn't have a chance to close my eyes and everything. So it actually just hit me straight in my eyes and my face. And
that burned your face?
Second and third degree burn.
Burned your eyes?
Yes, split.
Right. Were you blinded by that incident?
Yes, sir.
For how long?
Over 3 months.
Your wife helped treat you and get you through that?
Yes, that's all I had. Well, I didn't want my sister and daughter there, so going through that, so I sent them home.
You sent them home. You and your wife dealt with your injuries.
Yes.
You can go into the queue and get testimony number 2. Let me start off by saying, I was going to type this in, but I won't type it. I'll say it. Anthony Sowell didn't like affection. Are we shocked that Anthony Sowell did not like the wife to touch him? He said she was a touchy-feely type of female. Well, gee, Anthony, you're dead now, but nonetheless, obviously she liked attention. She liked to touch you. She was attracted to you, so she touched you. She wanted to touch you, and 9 times out of 10, she was expecting the same. And as you hear this attorney talking to him, he said, well, did you learn to go along with it in the end, along the way? Reciprocate. He said, yes. You see, that's one of the signs of a psychopath. There's no empathy. There's no affection. That's why he strangled his victims. Think about it. I don't want to touch you. I don't want to kiss you. I don't want to caress you. Because that's not what I'm here for. It's not what you're here for. I just want to get down to business of wrapping my hands around your throat, such as Sam Little, also an African-American serial killer who has also died recently inside of a prison cell in California. Something to ponder on. Let's get straight to business. It's no kissing. It's no touching. Possibly even no sex. Any type of sexual relations. I just want to choke you. Because you're not worthy of life. Anthony Sowell was a monster. And how dare his attorney say he was not a monster, rest in peace. Are you kidding me? And as I said in the earlier part of this live, he is no longer living. He died in a terminal care facility in Ohio while incarcerated. He was awaiting the death penalty when he died. And he was fighting the cases of these women he killed till the very end. Anthony Sowell was a monster. He killed 11 women, allegedly. Who knows, probably more. Why did he kill the women? Is it because of his childhood? His mother was abusive, arguing, bickering, beating him with an extension cord, probably beating him on sight just because she was mad and angry at the world. You also hear him talking about watching sexual relations in someone's house that he was staying with. Not really wanting to go into details. In another scenario, did these things taint this man's mind? Abusive childhood, other atrocities he possibly saw while being in the military and once out of the military. I think it's obvious he had no respect for women. And when you go into the book of life of men who are sadists, serial killers, rapists, the one thing you will find is a common denominator. They either had an abusive mother or an abusive father. And with the abusive mother, the men learn to detest their mother and have no respect for her. So therefore, as an adult, they had no respect for women. So when they see these women, whether they were short, tall, fat, pretty, productive, non-productive, educated, streetwalkers, it's all the same, drug addicts, alcoholics, I don't like her. I don't like her. I don't like women. I don't like females. They make me sick. You remind me of someone, my mother. And as the detective told him, when he tried to play coy and act like he didn't remember anything, that he was dreaming of killing these women, well, that's awfully strange. So what are you saying? You are a sleepwalker, Mr. Sowell? Naturally, you can't hear the queen because you're dead. But nonetheless, the detective told him, well, at some point you woke up, Mr. Sowell, when you decide to cover them with dirt. Indeed. No such thing as you were dreaming. The dream told you to kill that lady, this lady. You were wide awake and lucid when you lured the women. You solicit the women for alcohol, asked them would they like to come in to have a drink. They obliged you, but sold their soul to the devil for a drink or whatever it was you were offering at that time. Imagine meeting a stranger wherever, walking by his house, corner store, date site, it's all the same. You don't know him. Hey, come over. Let's have a drink. You see, as my aunt once told me about inviting men into your home, whether you know them or don't know them. Once the door is closed, all bets are off. Don't assume he will play nice, even if you have arranged for it to be a sexual encounter, a fling, whichsoever. That is the truth. That once the door is closed, all bets are off. Anthony Sowell, African-American, serial killer, 11 women stored in his house. The smell. Nobody smelled the smell in the neighborhood. Of course they did. They complained. They thought it was a sausage company. The sausage company went through hell and high water cleaning up their pipes and drains. They should also be reimbursed of the money they spent when all along it was the smell coming from Mr. Sowell's house. So now we have to ask ourselves, neighbors complaining about the smell, yet nobody assumed it was death. Someone assumed it was death, but nobody believed them, the neighbors. Put it all on the sausage company. It's hideous. It's ridiculous. Also, the police. Now. This is where Angela will play the devil's advocate. You mean to tell me why you're policing this area? You did not notice the smell of death in the neighborhood. There's no way you're going to tell me all the police officers that worked the beat in that neighborhood where Anthony lived, you did not notice the smell of death. You knew damn well that was not sausage. Come on now. And you all didn't think, let's follow the trail of the smell. You want me to believe that you never walked by that house or an alley behind the house and didn't smell the smell of death? Bodies decaying inside of the apartment, 3 floors. He left some out in the open, and yet you as a police officer don't know the smell of death. Come on now. Anthony Sowell had to smell like death. When he went outside, nobody noticed that when he went out to shop, go to the store. Where were his friends, his family? Obviously, nobody visited his house. Because don't you think they would say, what is that horrendous smell? It smells like a dead body in here. What's going on, Anthony? Baffling. So you have neighbors complaining, a sausage company doing whatever they had to do to clean up what they thought was a smell, but it was not their company. Neighbors complaining that they did smell death. Nobody cared. Law enforcement didn't care. Women running to the police who had been attacked by him and lived. They didn't believe them. And then we have those women who never emerged from Anthony Sowell's house. How was he able to afford the bills at the house? Was it willed to him, given to him? Did he buy it outright? I didn't hear that he worked. So what did he do for income to pay for water, lights, gas, taxes, so forth? It has also been reported that he was in the military. Did anything happen in the military with him? Did he assault women or murder any women while in the military? How long was he in the military? Honorably discharged or what? Did he have children? This report tells you that he was married. How long was he married? Did he ever try to choke his wife? Because it was once said by the girl who dated Ted Bundy that he did try choking her during sex. So she realized something wasn't right with Theodore. So I'm going to ask the wife, did Anthony Sowell ever choke you during sex? Because a lot of sadists like to choke during sexual relations. It is a high for them to choke you while engaging in sex. You see, some men are sadists. They want to rape the woman, torture the woman. And then you have those like Mr. Sowell who possibly didn't care for sex. He just wanted to choke you, strangle you to death. This is a very baffling story out of Ohio. Because there are too many things that went bump in the night that should have been taken care of by the law. Those people in that neighborhood knew better. And 9 times out of 10, out of rows and rows of buildings and houses, somebody knew the smell was coming from Mr. Sowell's house, but it went unnoticed, uncared. And unfortunately, because law officials ignored the women and the smell in the neighborhood, some women lie dead inside of Mr. Sowell's house. Are there any living relatives of Mr. Sowell who could speak of who he is, who he was at the time, any oddities that they noticed in his behavior pertaining to women, conversation, ideologies? Because as you see in his testimony in this audio I played, he sounded like a regular guy, laughing occasionally while spinning the web of his life as a child, being beat up as a child by the mother, watching sexual relations go on in an apartment he was staying in or house with some other people, family members, whomever. On one instance, he acted like he didn't even want to discuss whatever he saw. You see, that's how they do. They like to be the orchestrator, run everything. I'll speak when I want to speak, and then I'll be quiet on certain instances. But why? But what did I tell you all? Don't ask why not. I'll lay low on this subject here. I don't want to discuss that there, but I'll discuss this over here because I can. Many people are abused as children, mentally, physically, sexually. No food, no water, no attention, no love, no compliments. They don't get their hair combed. They don't have presents. They don't have gifts. They don't have adequate clothes, shoes. And they grow up to be fine adults. But you see, it is the choice of us to be who we want to be when we are grown. And some people fall by the wayside and become sadists, misfits, get in trouble with the law, and then others go on to become Rhodes Scholars, nurses, doctors, lawyers, engineers, productive citizens. So therefore, it's a matter of rolling the dice when it comes to human beings. You don't know what you're going to get at birth, and you don't know what you're going to get when they turn 18. You can be raised in a fine family and become a sadist. You can be raised by misfits and become a sadist. You have no idea the human mind. And that's the gist of the story. The mind is a very fragile organ, and it is not to be messed with. Because this is the reason why we have true crime today. Because somebody messed with a child. And the child became unhinged. And then the child became an unhinged adult. And all hell broke loose. And then they go out to the streets looking for their victims. And know that you can become a victim at any moment. Never say it will not happen to you. Never say it won't happen to you. That you will not be a victim of a violent crime. All you have to do is breathe. And you can become a victim. They can break in your house. They can wait on you to walk outside to walk your dog, to go to the trash bin, to get into your car. Shopping. Going to work out. Take a walk. Take a stroll. Ride your bicycle. Go to the gym. Go to work. Exit work. You can become a victim of foul play at any given time, so long as you have breath in you. So you need to be aware of your surroundings at all times. Unfortunately, these women had issues. Now, one lady let it be known that was speaking in the commentary in the earlier part of the video that her choice of entertainment was alcohol. She did not say she was a drug user. She did not even say she was a prostitute. So one can choose to drink with whomever they want to drink. No one would assume having a drink with a stranger would lead to being strangled to death. Lucky for her, she survived. And imagine that she gave her testimony, running out of the house, barely making it to the street, across the way to a pizza joint for people to tell her to get out of the store because she's bleeding. People laughing her outside. And then here comes the man who's trying to kill her. And that's what they do. Same thing Jeffrey Dahmer did with the young Asian male. He's running for his life. He gets help. And here comes Jeffrey Dahmer to say, oh, he's with me. He's okay. He's just not feeling well. But that lady didn't give a damn about Anthony Sowell walking up to her. She still took off running. Amen. How sad is that? To escape a madman, go for help, and no one wants to help you. And then he comes along to say that she robbed him. So they're probably agreeing. Yeah, she's just some old street person, prostitute, tried to rob the man. He beat her up. But that's not how it went, allegedly. Very sick and demented story. And this story is not the first of atrocious crimes against women by a male, and it won't be the last. And it is so sad that many people revere drug addicts and women of the night as trash. And many men who become serial killers choose women on drugs and women who walk the street as their victims because they're easy prey. Because they know they will get in the car. They know that she will go somewhere with him alone versus maybe another woman who possibly would not get in a car or walk around a street corner with them to hold a conversation or go for sexual favors in exchange for money, drugs, alcohol, whatsoever. But you can become a victim and not be a streetwalker, addict, or alcoholic. You can just take a chance to meet with a man in private as a date and end up a victim. Whether it be you invited him to your home or you went to his home. All bets are off when the door is closed. And that is a tragedy, that you cannot trust people, that people will lie to you to get you alone, to take advantage of you and ultimately kill you if that is their motivation. This is Crime Vault. Anthony Sowell. If you want to donate to the channel, $ Big Angie, 129 Cash App. Thank you all for joining me. The next live will be pertaining to Summer Wells. Thank you for joining me.